Hi. Identifying covert abuse. That's the topic for the day. Covert abuse is something that, well, covert, the word, in case you don't know what that means, as when I studied it in college, it's like, how do I distinguish between covert and overt? Well, the way I chose to learn this is covert. Think of covered. It's covered up. It's not apparent. Overt is the opposite, which is like overt, outward, meaning like somebody who walks in and screams and yells at you about something. That's overt. It's obvious. So the covert is much more difficult to recognize because it's covert. It's covered up. So that's what the topic tonight is about the covert abuse, because personally I was experiencing this on a few occasions with a few different people and didn't have a word for it because it's very easy to not detect because the nature of covert, it's covered up, so you don't know. And what I'll discuss too is in dissecting a particular example of such abuse, I'm going to describe two different things, which I've invented the words for, but one is multi-layered abuse, the other is time-lapse abuse, because these things tend to happen together. Plus, I have another series called The Narcissist's Bag of Tricks, and many of those techniques are pulled into this example to hopefully create a full picture, because I wish when I was going through this stuff and had questions, there was a video like this one to clear it up for me, but there wasn't, so I had to just try on my own to filter through the crap. But anyway, here it goes. So this is based on a specific example. The example we're using is you. You just met this person. This person you've been dating and having fun with, but you get the feeling that something's a little off. But the person texts you every morning, texts you every night, calls you every day, calls you every night, and you're seeing each other. But let's say you don't see each other every day because you have your own life on the side. Well, this person appears not to have a life on the side, but one particular occasion tells you, oh, on this whatever night, a night you don't normally see them, I'm invited to this party. It's a country music revival party. We're going to watch 10 different country music award shows. And keep in mind, let's say you've already made it clear you hate country music. Well, clearly that's a manipulation skill, because you're going to be like, country music? I don't think so. You have fun. Well, bingo, they won, because that was like a tactic used to steer you away. Because what really the deal is this person who you've been seeing regularly, who's told you, I don't look at anyone else now that I met you. You're the one for me. I want to be with you forever. And you're not ready for that yet. And you're like, that's a little quick. We just met a week ago. Well, that's what this involves. Because you know in your own mind that you're telling this person, no. And yet they're saying, I want it, I want it, I want it. But then all of a sudden a change in the pattern occurs where there's this special event, which hasn't happened yet. So naturally your intuition, or the gut feeling video I talked about, you've got a gut feeling something's up. But regardless, that night comes, and you do your own thing. And remember, every night for the last several weeks or months, you've always gotten some kind of good night something. So you send a message, text, good night, I hope you're having fun, and you don't get a response. Well, that's odd in this circumstance because it doesn't fit the pattern. So your natural intuition is telling you, this person's up to something. They must be up to something. And then you call, you dial the number, it rings and rings and rings, and no answer. And you think, I knew it. I knew this person was too good to be true. And your, again, gut feeling intuition is like, you should have listened to me long ago. But regardless, what ends up happening in this story, the truth is, that person is one of these narcissistic people, or cluster B people, who has to have a constant source of supply, and because perhaps maybe you haven't given yours away completely, well, they're keeping their options open, and of course they'll never tell you. So what they're doing is grooming the next person in this case, so you're of course not going to know this. But here's what unfolds afterwards. The next day comes, and finally at 3 in the afternoon, oh, sorry, my phone died, or some kind of retarded excuse that you know is never, again, you know that they always contact you. So even if it's, I'm really busy, I'll talk to you in an hour or something, but there's nothing, and all of a sudden the next day, oh, my phone, or whatever they say, it doesn't matter, it's fake. But the point here is that when you resume your contact with the person, you may express your feelings or thoughts of, you know what, I think that last night you did something with somebody else that you might be trying to pursue for a date, which is like your intuition. And the person will be, oh, that's crazy. It was a country music festival. I told you that. I invited you. And you think, okay, I'm not buying this. But you then start using your mental logical abilities that these creatures do not seem to have, or they keep private when you're dealing with a matter they did, and you say, but wait a second, I think you did something strange or fishy because you always respond. You always do that. You always at least send some kind of message back. Are you sure? And of course, here's where we go with the first layer of abuse. Because we know the person was actually pursuing someone else behind your back. So the first level of abuse is that they did it, first of all, and then the fact that when you question it, they will say, oh, how could you even insinuate I would do anything to harm what we have? I told you, you're the only one for me. Well, this is abuse because it's an outright lie. Because clearly they were pursuing someone. But again, then we pull in the gaslighting because you're like using your natural intuition to figure something's not right here and telling exactly why. But like these people with this cluster B crap, they cannot logically debate or be equal with you. They'll just say, I told you I went to a country music party. And you're like, but wait a second. You normally at least respond, and they will tell you, I can't believe you would dare call me a liar. And this is another bag of trick, playing a victim. Because you're basically just inquiring about a valid inquiry, and they're acting this way. Fine, you don't trust me? Oh, and it's, I'm just questioning because it doesn't fit with the pattern. But that's a sign right there that they're being a victim. And it's also the second layer of abuse because you might even flat out say, you know what, you didn't call back, you were up to something. And they will say again to abuse you. They're bullies. They're actually bullies. They'll be like, you're making this all up. I didn't do anything. How dare you call me a liar? I told you what happened, la la la. Well, that's it. That's the second layer of abuse. Well, time passes. Weeks pass, days pass, months pass, and all of a sudden, some piece of evidence pops up that indicates that particular night something other than what was told to you did happen. So the cat comes out of the bag. So now you're like, I knew it. I knew that night something was up. And guess what? The person, if they do this, they might try to trivialize this discovery. They might try to act like it's a fly they want to toss aside with their hand when you actually find out, I knew you did something. And they'll say something like, well, so what? Yes, I did, but big deal. You did whatever you did and blah, blah, blah. And you are like baffled because you think, well, I guessed that from the start. Why couldn't you just have just said, okay, yes, that's what I did? And you start to realize and replay the memories of all the fighting this person did to defend that nothing happened, and now you found out it did, yet their reaction is, oh, so what, I lied to you, big deal, I apologize. And again, that doesn't make sense in your cognitive dissonance mind. Wait a second, you're supposed to be devoted to me, and you're supposed to be telling me the truth, and I asked you 1,000 times, and they never gave you the right answer. And now all of a sudden the answer comes out, but it's trivialized. And if you ask about it again, and that's where, again, the time lapse comes in. Because at the moment it happened, you were right on it, addressing it, but now months and weeks passed, and then you find out the truth. Well, by then it's like months ago. So this works in their manipulation bag of tricks, because you're thinking, well, wait a second, what about all that talk of you don't look at anybody else? And the fact is they're an evil monster, and they can't admit that. So they might even react like, fine, I'm a terrible person, or you need to let that go, that's the past. That's so long ago. And they'll incorporate the flying monkeys too, that might be your friends they befriended, and might say, all he does is talk about things that happened in the past, but they'll leave out the fact that they have kept you in suspense for this last year or however long it is. So that's how they work, again, incorporating multiple bags of trick items. One last part to this is to compare this to like a non-abusive situation with someone who really likes you. If you're concerned or upset about events that have happened involving them, non-abusive, non-manipulative people will actually listen to you and see it from your viewpoint. Well, these people don't have that. That's called empathy. They don't have remorse for what they did. It's all deserved in their eyes. So that's, again, adds on to the abuse factor, because they're basically giving you the message or signal without saying it that, you know what, your feelings don't matter. You know what, your thoughts don't matter. You know what you feel about this doesn't matter. And that is not the behavior of this love bomber who was there before, who wanted to be with you at all times. So that's a clue, because you know you can compare this to other situations that do not involve the evil one, and how they would be like, oh, well, we're going to solve this together. But yet when it's them doing the problem, it's a different story. It's abuse. Look out.